Let's roll. Co-pilot on the passenger side, be so fly. Yeah, she so lit, we so high. Just me and my chick, yeah. Just me and my chick, yeah. Co-pilot on the passenger side, be so fly. Yeah, she so lit, we so high. Just me and my chick, yeah. Just me and my chick, yeah. She give me a bit of her love. Yo, what up, y'all? Welcome to another one, man. It's your boy Rob One, and this is Sparking Conversation. And y'all know what I do each and every week. I get up here and I talk to some of the world's most interesting people. And tonight I'm gonna do the same thing. But before we get into that, y'all know I gotta do what I do each and every week, and let's thank all the people that download the audio version of this platform. Y'all the real MVPs. I cannot thank y'all enough, because I'm telling y'all, so many people get caught up in this visual part when it comes to this platform thing or this podcast thing, but it's about the audio. That's where the value, that's where the meat at, so to speak, is in your platform, or the value in your IP is that audio. So the fact that people want to download it and listen to you and listen to what your guests have to say, and they all over the world, that's bananas. Last week, y'all know, we had people checking in from Russia, and y'all know we on a huge time difference. And they were up and they were on there and they was watching us. So I'm saying, no matter what, all of y'all out there that have a platform, do not get discouraged. Don't let them trick you out your spot, talking about everybody doing it and everybody's this and this. Don't fall for that. Everybody not you. So you got to remember that. And then whatever you bring to the table is enough. Like, remember, you might not ever go viral doing this. That's not the point. But you can do what you need to do and still have a passion for helping people, or have a passion for allowing people to have a platform to tell their story, because that's what I do. That's what Sparking Conversation is about. Hopefully, after every episode that people come and check with my guests or whatever we talk about, it sparks a conversation wherever they are. But in the event that it don't, I know that a lot of times people hate and they spark a conversation with me in the comments and they go crazy. So either way it go, right? It's a conversation that's being sparked. And I think that's the most important thing, because along with my guests, like even my guests tonight, being able to write literature on how to help people how to learn how to communicate. Now think about that, y'all. That's one of the biggest separators of all relationships, is the way people talk to each other and the way people understand each other, because perspectives is so important, and people do not want to understand perspective. It's either right or wrong in their eyes, and that's not how life is. That's not what being a friend is. If you can only be a friend with somebody because they do everything you want them to do, then you're not a friend. They're not supposed to be, everybody's not supposed to be exactly like you in order for you to feel like these people are supposed to be around you. It's that difference in people that spark whatever it is that motivates you to keep moving, or to be different, or to take some type of risk in some things, right? So anyway, let me not do too much of that, because we got to get into some other stuff, because I got a real rant that I got to give you all in a few minutes. But let's get to this real quick. All right, so thank y'all to everybody that's been pushing play on the Ooh Lifter series that's going on right now. Thank y'all so much, yeah. To all of y'all that's been pushing play on all the comedy content that we're doing. I really appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. I can't say that enough, man, because listen, you could put anything out there in the world, and the mindset of being creative and not being afraid to put yourself out there. And that's one of the things I want to make sure that I give off to my people, to let them know, like, and I'm not saying my people as if it's personal. I'm talking about to all of y'all out there that's watching, y'all my people, believe in yourself. Right? That's the main thing. Believe in yourself. All right. Other than that, we got We Don't Wait, We Create. Right? That's coming up in April. I want all of my people out there to understand this is not just a regular networking kickback. Whenever you come here, I promise you, you will leave the room with a connection and somebody that's actually putting in the work. Hence why I say thank you to all the people that push play on the content, because you come meet me, we're going to get the work. right? So it's not just a regular networking event. I want y'all to come through. You want to meet other people that's in the business and they're doing things too, and you can go ahead and put yourself in a position. We need brand ambassadors for clothing lines. We need people that are interested in filming and script writing, and it's a whole brand ambassadors, influencers. Everybody's in the building with products. They'll be there for you to actually network with and connect with and build the right type of relationships. Listen, don't let nobody pay you $100 when you can make 1,000. It's just simple, right? Don't cut yourself short because you're looking to get paid. Look to make money, not look to get paid. It's a difference. It's a mentality. I promise you. It's a big difference in that. All right, back. So outside of that, I wanted to make sure that I say this to everybody too, because a lot of times things get misconstrued when it comes down to picking and choosing who I have on the platform, right? Because I get a lot of people that hit me up that want to come on the platform, and I think they feel like their story is better than other people in the same thing. And I'm trying to figure this out. Like, no, like this is not what this is. I don't play favoritisms. What I do is I put it out there for people to say, hey, listen, I'm open to having people share their stories. And then when people connect with me and then we lock in a date, that's how that go. I don't got time to be waiting around for people to figure out whether they want to come rock with me or not. I mean, it's not that. You know what I'm saying? And then when you come and I'm saying, oh, yo, no, I got somebody on that's already talking about that. You want to be upset with me. Like, yo, why? I didn't tell you to pick the topic. You should, you got to be in it to win it. Like these people that connect with me, they responded to me and I responded to them. You should see some of the comments. Like, yo, listen, when I do put out the flag of saying everybody, I'm open to having a conversation, I get so many people that respond. But when it comes down to actually getting down to the dates, when I'm like, all right, bet, I like what you want to talk about, let's do it. Then it's like crickets, crickets, crickets. Listen, this is the reason why I only rock with the people who rock with me. So if you see me having guests, that's because they respond and they serious about what they want to talk about. That's it. You can't look at them and then say you think you better than them. You're not better than them. Because if you was better than them, you would have beat them. You didn't beat them. So you're not better. So relax. You don't have to be trying to compare. Just let that go. Anyway, so before we get into my rant, I got to do my Did You Know segment. So I want to make sure that all y'all understand the information that I do and Did You Know is because I want to make sure that, did y'all know? Right? Because in America, everyone has this dream that we've been told since we were little. Now, for those that look like me, we understand that maybe the people in our generation, that, didn't look at us and say that was a thing for them because of how we grew up, right? But there's always been this thing about the American dream, owning the land, owning your own home, right? Whenever it comes down to wealth and investment, and the easiest way for a person or the quickest way for a person to get to that place where they could do 6 figures and above, they always say it's real estate, right? Like owning your home and owning the land and all that other stuff, right? And then when you do get it and you do own it and you realize that you pay taxes on it for the rest of your life. So do you really own it? Right. And then, you pay it off thinking that it's yours and you pay it off. And then you realize, well, wait a minute, I paid it off this fast. Now they charge me the tax on what it's worth, not what I paid for it. And then you realize that you got a tax bill that you need to be making payments on every month, because if you wait till tax time, you be sitting up here out of tens of thousands of dollars. Right, for a house that you paid 100 and something thousand for because the property value went up, it's 400,000 now. You done paid it off, and now you thinking you're gonna pay taxes on what you bought it for. No, you paying taxes on that 400,000. Sorry. Now this is how all these things are set up. But not to be able to use your land that you pay for and you pay taxes on, you know what I mean? That's bananas to me. I want to know, did y'all know this? I'm going to share my screen because I wanted to know, because listen, there was a guy who was arrested because he reserved rainwater. The state locked him up because they said they own the water. No, not the city water. They own the rain. Where? all right, so here's the thing. All right, we already are buying land from people who didn't create the land. Like technically. Like for us to even be paying for land and buying, land being for sale and who owns it, who sold it to the person that owned it. Like whenever it comes down to the first group of people who said they was gonna sell land, who sold it to them? Think about it. Nobody. There's a bunch of people that took some stuff and said, "Here, I'm gonna sell it to you. I own it." They took it. So in the event that we out here sitting up here thinking that because we paid for something and we doing everything the right way, that a place says, yo, that like this ain't, I'm not privileged to be living in your state just because I'm here or I was born here. It's no privilege for me to live here. How you gonna tell me that I can't use the resources of what I pay for and you cannot? And you get locked up. And I'm gonna play this video because I want y'all to tell me, did y'all know? Word, hold on, give me a second. We're gonna share this screen real quick because we gotta get this out here. I wanna know if y'all knew or not. Let's go.
An Oregon man was convicted and sent to jail for collecting and using rainwater on his own property, sued by the state for theft. Rancher Gary Harrington built 3 large reservoirs on his own land to collect rainwater and snow melt. He claimed the water was primarily for fire protection reserves and for providing water to wildlife. But the state called it theft and prosecuted Gary. A municipal code stipulates that all water within city limits, including precipitation, is part of the public water supply. The city requested the court order the removal of his collection system and impose a fine. Despite Harrington's repeated appeals, arguing, "The water fell on my land. I'm not selling it. I'm simply using it on my own property." The court ultimately rejected his claims. Harrington was found guilty on multiple charges, including unlawful appropriation of state water resources. He was sentenced to 30 days in jail and fined over $1,500. The incident sparked intense backlash. Residents said it was simply tyranny. If a person cannot own the rain that falls on their own land, what do they actually own?
Now, did y'all know? Because again, that goes back to my question. What is it that this dream is that they selling us? And the fact that we're so separated out here in the way that everything is presented, when I don't know if the people that are understanding that are separated, that the people who are helping to initiate the separation don't care about you either, no matter what side that you're on. So this is what's going to go into my rant. Let me get into my rant because I got to bring my guest up and we got to talk about communication. All right. But before that, let me just say this for all of y'all that was so upset with the Super Bowl halftime show. Y'all bugging because I don't understand what's going on. Because at the end of the day, what is it that we are so offended by when it comes down to what goes on in this place? Remember, this place was supposedly founded by immigrants. Everything that go on in the United States is by people. Now, if you think about it, the people that talk about how successful they are is the third generation or the second generation of this, that, and the third that migrated over here to this country. Some people right now that speak fluid and that you can't tell at all that they from anywhere else, but their family, their parents, and all of them speak their home or their native language, like right now to this day. And the fact that everybody is upset because Bad Bunny was on. Now, listen, if you don't like the man, if you don't like the other things that go on, and I get that, that has nothing to do with what I'm getting ready to say. I'm talking about the division between the people that we keep allowing them to do to us by y'all sitting up here being upset about something like that. And I'm trying to figure it out. Like, okay, so you telling me that he's the only person that performed at the Super Bowl that wasn't what? What are you trying to say? Because they are Puerto Rican, they're American citizens. So help me understand how are you saying that this was so un-American when we had so many non-Americans perform at the Super Bowl? So hold on, let me read this out because I know y'all always, I want to make sure people understand. I don't just be popping shit. Listen. U2, Paul McCartney, The Rolling Stones, Coldplay, The Who, Shakira, Rihanna, and The Weeknd. Now, these are all people that performed at the Super Bowl that are not American citizens at all. Now, we love Rihanna. The Weeknd is, it's whatever, right? But what I'm saying to y'all is like, listen, no backlash, no complaining about that. Y'all complain about Rihanna, but not too much because she did the Super Bowl halftime show pregnant. So it was like a feat of amazement. You couldn't really hate on her. You was almost like, oh, we don't like it, but she killing it, right? So you had to give her that pass. But as far as the Weeknd and everybody else I named, there was no backlash, no nothing from nobody, like nothing. And then we caught up in this whole racist thing, yo. Like we still in this place and time. We got people who are on this level, on this end, still judging each other based on the way that they look. And it's so weird to me because they gonna do it either way. Like either way they go, the people who are controlling and moving those puppets around, they making money regardless. They making money off of the love and the hate. Y'all just picking a side to give them a chance to say, I'm gonna do both. It's no different. It's no different for you going into a place. You say, okay, so then it's the same thing that's going on with Walmart. Y'all went through all of these changes with Walmart and all these different things that they was doing races, and Walmart be the first person to be selling Black History T-shirts, and y'all go right in there and buy them. It's the weirdest thing. But then you complain. I just don't understand. So what I'm saying to y'all is that listen, no, I'm not. Everybody kept talking. I mean, I got people hitting me up like, yo, so you ain't going. No, I'm not. I think the music is fire, and if you crazy, music is about a vibe, like right, because none of y'all get upset when you go to the Chinese store to order that beef and broccoli with shrimp fried rice. Do you know the language then? Huh? When you go to the biggest Brazilian steakhouse, do you know this? Do you speak Portuguese when you go in there? No. When you go and you love sushi, everybody loves sushi. Everywhere you go, people really feel like they got some money too when they eat sushi, raw fish, and all this other stuff. Do you speak Japanese when you go and get the sushi? No, you don't. So you gonna tell me because you don't speak Spanish, you can't vibe with the music, but you can eat the food that you don't understand the language to, though. So backwards. And each and every one of y'all, like if I was the Mexican, listen, I wouldn't let you come in on Taco Tuesday after what y'all just did, because what y'all do, y'all gonna go right now today. Most of y'all that was mad at Bad Bunny is eating a taco today, and you still don't know Spanish. It's weird to me. Y'all are weird. Either way it go, y'all are weird. I don't care what you want to say about it. You don't like the meme. You should have had your captions on, smart people, right? You should have had your captions on. Now, I might not have really translated it all the way like it needed to be, basic stuff. But listen, if you had any other issue, enjoy the music, catch the vibe. That's it. If not, turn it. Y'all saw what Kid Rock doing. Kid Rock over there looking like he one step away from just falling over from the wind blowing. And y'all went over there and checked it out. So what? If y'all like that, then go over there and watch Kid Rock. Like we don't care. Nobody cares. But it's sad to me that that's what y'all mad about. It's sad to me that y'all talking about Spanish so hard, that y'all so mad about everything Spanish, but y'all do everything that y'all can with every other language and every other thing, and even Spanish. Like I said, y'all do everything else, but then you telling me you can't understand the music, so you upset when it was a whole vibe. You telling me you can't understand the beats? Most of y'all listen to, think about rap music now. Most of y'all they ain't talking about nothing. But the beats that's what most of the people you hear, most women that listen to rap, oh, I don't care about the word, I just like the beat. Yeah, right, whatever. But that's the thing. You still find a reason to hate, and that's corny. And that's really corny, and you are. So that's it. So I know when this get clipped up, I'm going to get a whole bunch of, I don't care. Y'all corny. Period. All right, I got a couple of comments real quick, and then I'm saying, I'm gonna bring my guest up so we can get into this whole communication thing, which I feel like probably would be a good thing to talk about since I just got through going through what I just went through. So maybe it's a good thing to learn how to communicate. All right, let's see. We got Timmy Reglan. Hi, what's up, bro? How are you? Keep it up. I hope you become famous. Thank you. I appreciate that, bro. I don't know if that's what I'm going for, but I appreciate what you're saying, and I definitely get it. Thank you. I wasn't mad with them until the Super Bowl. I don't who's them, right? At gun one, put in there who's them that you was mad at, because I don't who because what we was mad at, like I said, you know what I'm saying, what's to be mad at, because everybody got translators and everything on their phone. People knew that Bad Bunny was coming on the Super Bowl since last year. They could have been went and checked fan music out and researched his music. You know he wasn't gonna come in there doing nothing that was ballady, because it's the Super Bowl. He only get like 15 minutes, so you know he was coming through and rocking with all up-tempo beats. You know he was gonna come in there with culturally showing the heritage of what's going on in Puerto Rico. And then for those of y'all that know the history of Puerto Rico, you really should not be hating on Puerto Ricans at all. But either way it go, I want to know who you talking about, fam. So make sure if you still watching, go ahead and put it in the chat. All right, we'll get to it. But let me bring my guest up real quick because we got to get into it. All right, so let's go. Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, Ra.
How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. I've been enjoying your intro. It's been very entertaining for me. And your rant was great too. I loved it.
Oh wow, that's great. That's great. But listen, so what's what we got to do? Because what I want to do is I want to let people know who you are, and then we're gonna get into the reason why you're for him this evening.
Sure. So, hello, everyone. My name is Lynn Stone. I'm an author, and Ra's been talking about about communication, and so my book that I wrote is about communication, but it's not quite what you think it's about. It's about death. It's about death planning. So it's kind of taking a little bit of a little twist here based from what we were talking about, but it can all relate. But I'm calling in from Georgia, Southeast Georgia, this evening, and I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to talk about the book, about all the other fun things that I've been up to, and back to you, Raw. Let's go. I'm excited.
I bet. So listen, throughout life, right? There's been a lot of relationships, right, that could have been salvaged if people just learned how to communicate with each other, right?
Absolutely.
And it's just like part of the rant that I was giving a few minutes ago. Like, if people wanted to understand, they would try to. It's just that it's a lot of people out here who just don't want to understand. So they're just so stuck in the way that they think and the way that they view things, that even when you make sense to see it another way, they resist it because they just don't want to be wrong. How did you figure out that you could help people with understanding the rules or guide them in how to communicate with each other?
Well, I think for me, it's kind of just a matter of necessity, to be able to communicate and in order to be successful in accomplishing your mission, whatever your mission is, you have to come to some sort of understanding. And so, it could be, some concessions, where you're kind of trying to accomplish something for the greater good, whatever that is for yourself. And so you have to concede in a conversation. If it's not going the way you want, but you need it to go that way, you have to give a little, and then, give and take. Right. So I think from my personal experience, that's what I've had to learn to be able to get, all the pieces together that needed to happen for me. And so it's just having those difficult conversations with different people, whether it's, people that I know personally or that I don't know at all, but I have to engage with them in some way in order to make the final end product happen, whatever that was. So that's the give and take, just what you said, being willing to understand, being willing to do a little research if you have to get a better understanding of the overall discussion and topic that we're talking about. I think that's how you would do that.
Yeah, because I also thought about this too. There's very few people who search for the balance between the spiritual and the physical.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that because of the way that they feel, like the way that they think, it controls how they feel. So it's hard for them to see the spiritual part, like being able to see things based on the perspective. Because here's the thing, like I had people that I grew up around that were drug addicts. The goal or the thing that we hated wasn't them personally. It was the drug.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? So that's the perspective. It's just that in life, people, instead of people hating the thing or not liking the thing, they don't like the person because of the way that it's opposite of them. And that's what is so hard to get communication across. And it also turns into an argument, right?
Mhm.
Because one person doesn't want to understand the perspective of the person they're talking to. They just want to be right because they feel something.
Right.
So how do you deal with that in the sense of, approaching people in the way that you do when you got to let them know about the, communication style?
I think that whenever you're at a crossroads, I think it's important to understand that a person can only argue so much to the point that they're willing to understand, right? So I think sometimes they're not necessarily thinking about the full picture. They're thinking about the talking points that they've heard and they're trying to regurgitate these talking points rather than having forming their own opinion that might go against what others in their community might believe or might be saying. And rather than being an individual and having their own personal opinion, it's easier to just go to walk the party line, right? Whatever that is, whether,
Mm,
we don't like Bad Bunny because of whatever reason. Now, personally, I might think he's fantastic, but if I'm going, if I don't want to be ostracized for having an opinion that is opposite of my group, whatever that group is, then I'm just going to just go along with them. And I mean,
mm,
Bad Bunny is just the current flavor du jour, right? This happens with
right.
everything. Everyone has an opinion about everything, right? And I mean, so I'll throw it out. I'm a huge Nickelback fan, and Nickelback has received so much hate, right? I mean, I'm going like another country, right? These guys are Canadian, right? But there's people people that absolutely despise them, but their argument, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never used the word formulaic in any form of my conversation at all. But you hear
Me
people, well,
neither.
why don't you like Nickelback? Oh, their music is so formulaic. Okay, that's a talking point that you picked up somewhere back in the early 2000s, and you've just regurgitated that's the truth that you have continued to tell yourself. And despite the fact that they've continued to make music and they make really good music, and whatever. So it's the same argument. People can't form their own opinions. They just gotta, they will copycat whatever talking point they want to hang on to, and that's it.
And that's true because people do that in regular conversations too, because they like to put things in a societal base a lot. Like even between the conversation between men and women, there's a lot of people who base their opinions based on the majority of whichever gender they are. And
Right.
they look at they love to go and see what other women are saying or men are saying and look to find people that align with the way that they think, because like I say, most people, they are so in tune with the feeling. They always feeling something.
Mhm.
Like very seldom do they think about it before, they just feel it. And whenever they feel it, it controls their thoughts. And then next thing you know, it's scenarios made up in their head that never happen, that never will happen. And then they feel it physically. And then, it gives off an energy. Because that's why I say communication is the most important part. Because if you can't give your truth to a person and help them understand it from a perspective, not from a right or wrong, but this is me. I looked at when I said this thing about the spiritual thing, because I get this, right? Like there are people who may not believe in zodiac
Mhm.
as far as the day to day,
Yeah.
right? Saying that, you might have read your horoscope and today it said, hey, you're going to win $1 million. And then you get through the day and you don't have the $1 million. You're like, well, I don't know. But what we're saying is that when it comes down to the personality trait of those people born in between these particular days and times, a lot of those be spot on when it comes down to the personality.
Yeah.
So people will not take the time to research that either, to say, okay, so the basis part of this person's personality is this. Now, whatever childhood traumas or things that they've gone through is added on to this. This
Right.
is the base, and these are the things that's added on to it. So whenever you're going into the relationship with the person, but people won't do that. You know what they do? They will say, "This is how I am. This is what I do, and that's all I'm going to be about." Well, you didn't want to understand the person in the first place because
Right.
you didn't research it. Same thing with Bad Bunny. Like, you're mad at him because you didn't want to research his music. You should have researched his music before you even got upset. Like, research the music. They got translations of it. Go
And Google
research it.
Translate on everybody's phone.
Right? But you just want to be mad. That little extra step that it could take for you not to be mad, but you will not do it because you feel something.
Yeah.
Because you know that if you go and find out that what you feeling is wrong, then you feel wrong, and then now you got to bring yourself down, and you don't want that, and most people don't want that. That's why they only feel like what they think is right, and that's crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? So I want to know, based on your opinion, do you think that having a third party in certain conversations really helps with communication?
Well, I think it depends on the topic, but I think and the person, the who the third party is. I mean, if they can be an unbiased person that can help to like that can listen to either side and help to um, facilitate the conversation to come to an agreement, yeah, I think that that would be very helpful. And actually, that's something I recommend when it comes to the topic that I'm writing about. Because that happens. People don't want to talk, or they have such ingrained ideas about their beliefs about certain processes, and in order to have a conversation you have to bring in a third party just to be able to get through to that person, because they might feel like, well, you're biased, you already have an opinion, let's have somebody, and maybe I'll hear it differently if it's coming from somebody else. Or you might think, well, maybe they will hear it differently if it comes from somebody else. So
Right.
I mean, I think it can't. I think it would be very helpful depending on what the topic is that you need
That
to
you're
bring a
trying to have
third
a
party
communication for.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true too, because then there's a catch-22 with that too. Because then when you have people who are openly communicating with people and they're telling them something, but they don't believe it until they hear it from somebody else, that's also kind of like it goes against the communication between the people too as well, because it's like, listen, these people, we're not always going to have access to somebody else. We got to
Right.
learn how to get through things ourselves together as adults, or whatever that is,
Right.
siblings, whatever it is. We got to learn how to get through this together. We're not going to always have that third person, but if you can only get a point when it's made from someone else, then it's like, I don't know at what part of the relationship is really there that will ever change to the point where, you can have that trust that you're communicating with a person that's fully
Yeah.
listening to you.
Yeah. I mean, I think and I'm sure that that happens a lot. Like there's a built-in resentment that has been growing for years. And when you
Mm,
get to the point where
mm,
you need to have a hard conversation, regardless of the topic, the trust is not there because it's been broken at some point, and it's just it's festering. It just continues to fester.
mhm.
And then whenever you need to have that conversation, they don't want to hear it because there's disbelief and mistrust. So this person, this third party, you can bring them in, you can have, they can be saying something based on their observation or what they're hearing and can kind of synthesize it down. And the person might agree or might disagree, but well, having that unrelated, unbiased third party can help to keep the conversation going. But to your point, in that catch-22, if they're not willing to hear it, and what they hear is the third party echoing what this other person is like, the other person is saying, then they might not believe it anyway. So
They're going to reject it more. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like, at some point you have to say, well, is this conversation even worth, is it necessary to continue? I mean, do we need to, or can we just agree to disagree and, just sort our differences there? But
I mean, I don't know. Agree to disagree. It's a thing, right? It's almost like a table it, but agree to disagree also is not a resolution, right? So
right,
you can expect that this is going to come back up. right?
Yeah.
Because you have people who have these two strong opinions about this one topic who can't seem to come to an agreement on a topic because one or the other is not willing to do the research on the topic. Most people are only going based off feeling of a topic, not necessarily whether they wanted to go really understand it or not. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think
Hmm.
sometimes people feel like if it makes them uncomfortable, they're very resistant, right?
Yep.
They don't want to talk about it. It makes them uncomfortable. It's awkward. Whatever those negative feelings are that they have. And so they will put up they'll put up the wall. Like I don't want to talk about it. And it doesn't matter how many people you have come into the conversation, they're going to dig their feet in or their heels, right? They're saying, I'm not having this conversation. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to listen to you. And really what it takes is something else outside of all of that to happen for them to eventually come to a point where, oh, well, maybe I should have had that conversation, or man, I wish I would have thought about that, or man, I wish we would have sat down and discussed that. At that point it might be too late, depending
Yeah.
on what the circumstances are. And
Yeah.
so I think that's, I think we just need to be better and more willing to have open conversations and be receptive to open conversations and not be so willing to dig in and, not be willing to, communicate. I think that's, we get very stubborn as we get older, right? We just kind of have our
Yeah.
opinions on things
Yeah.
and how things should be. And then when they don't quite add up that way, then we,
it goes left. But then some people are faced with change so much, like right throughout life, so that even as you get older you can't really even stand on that. You got to be willing to go with change, because change is happening right in front of us, just like how technology has changed for a lot of people right now. There are a lot of people who are displaced from jobs, that because technology has came in and they automating things where process that used to be manual. So those people are so upset because they're not willing to change, to accept change. And stubbornness only comes from, to me, my personal opinion, comes from comfortability,
yeah,
right? Most people are stubborn because they're comfortable
right.
in whatever it is that they have. So they don't want to move or budge from that. Anything from that, it almost makes them feel unsafe.
Yeah,
And that's one of the emotions that draws certain people to do certain things, is the feeling of being unsafe, right? You got people who, like for men, our pride, like any event you lose your job or anything that, you feel like is what makes you valuable.
hmm
That is one of the things that is hard for you to deal with as a man, you know what I mean? Because your pride is then taking over, because now, you wondering how people are now viewing you.
right.
Right. And so the communication that you want to have with people is not so much of, oh man, look at me, y'all. I'm in this place now. The communication is more so like, yo, just don't give up on me. I'm gonna do. But then so many people get gave up on because it's a time, people look at things that be happening
Right.
in a certain time. It's very seldom do they understand that your role sometimes is to play this. And I looked at that form of communication too as well. The nonverbal,
Yeah, for
which
sure.
is, you know what I mean. That is just as dangerous as what you say,
Yep.
right? The pullback, the way you look in your eyes, the eye roll, and
Crossing the
the
arm.
you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, the disconnection in the same room.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so much of that is what people don't realize too. That's a part of communication too. You dealing with the right type of person, they pick up on that too. They hear what you're saying loud and clear without you saying a word. You
Yeah.
know, and you can't fumble those people.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you say that because I kind of joke. I don't have a poker face at all. So, if I don't say it, my face will say it. My eyes will say it. If you can say I have an RBF if you want, if I'm not smiling, but, like if I don't agree, like, I got my eyebrows will do weird things. Like the story's all right there, so I can't hide it. But it's true, and And some people have learned, like they'll look at me like, okay, I can see it on your face. What's wrong? Like, what are you thinking? What is your question? Because you didn't ask it, but your face said everything that I needed to know. And so
Uh-huh.
you're absolutely right. People are watching. They just kind of even if you don't even realize that you're watching it, like you just kind of absorb all of it, right? You just absorb all the behavior, and then you make an assessment based on that.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's because, communication is so universal. It's more than just the words you speak. It's your actions, it's your everything. And it's very hard for people to adapt to that. As much as people would like to think that should be okay with just accepting a person for who they are, it's very hard to deal with people who present a negative energy,
Yeah,
right? Because you don't want to be in it. If you're a person that is looking for a different place to be in life because it's already a bunch of negative stuff going on in the world, you just can't be consumed with that energy, because that's not the way that you want to live your life, no matter how your life is written out for you, right?
I
Your
agree.
choice is not to live in that energy. So that is an automatic conversation deterrent, I think, is whenever you recognize that you're in negative energy.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
pretty much want to just remove. You don't want to
Mhm.
talk about it, right?
Yeah,
Because if you're trying to talk about it, and wherever that energy is coming from, it might not be willing to express it at that time. It might be willing to hold back, because technically, sometimes, like I said, people are just feeling things based on what they think. It
right.
ain't true.
Right. It's been they've kind of created this scenario in their mind, and now they believe it. They've created this story, and now they believe their own story. Yep.
And so now the energy is negative, and then you are battling against that energy. It's not the person not being, whether they're a good person or good people, or you love them or you just like them, or co-workers, or just your siblings or whoever, even parents. Like, everybody don't have the best relationship with the person who brought them into the world,
Right.
right? What you would expect to have that relationship with a person who feel responsible for you being here, but it's just not the case.
Yeah.
And so that's with anybody. Like, once you find yourself battling negative energy, you there's no room. Just to me, you could help me out, because I still got to learn too. If this is part of what you're teaching, um, you don't want to communicate. You want to remove yourself,
Yeah. Well,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you sense the resistance. You sense
yeah,
they've thrown up a wall, and you're like, okay, I can tell you don't want to have this conversation, and okay, but we need to have the conversation at some point. So it's either we can muscle through this, and you can come kicking or screaming, or we'll table it. We'll come back whenever cooler heads will prevail, and we can address it later. But I mean, again, the topic that you're discussing will really drive how you proceed forward, right? The communication that
yeah,
you decide that you want to move forward with. And so, to kind of segue into that, I talk about having difficult conversations about death planning. So that's what the book,
mm,
and of course, like no one wants to talk about it, right? No one wants to talk about their own mortality. No one wants to think about, their parents dying, or their children dying, or them dying, and what happens with everyone once that happens, right? And you don't want to talk about those types of things because it's uncomfortable and it's awkward, and it's just a hard conversation that you just don't want to have to deal with, but
yeah.
you really should. It makes things a little bit easier in the long run.
I mean, yeah, it's just that speaking thing. Like, I think there's a double-edged sword with that too, when it comes down to people feeling like they don't want to speak things into existence, right? So they don't want to talk about death in a way where they're preparing for it, because it's almost like they feel like they're inviting it in. Like, yo, yeah, so whenever. But then there are those who have a different sense of why they want to have this conversation with their loved ones, because a lot of times you'll be surprised that it's not the person, you know, it be their people, their loved ones don't want to have the conversation,
Right.
not necessarily the person. Like the person wants to tell their family or whatever, hey, listen, any event that this happened, this is what I want to do. I want this, I want that, I want that. The people around them are like, no, we're not having that conversation. Ain't nothing gonna happen to you. You're gonna be good. We're gonna be dead. So
Right.
it's not always that person. It be the people around you. They love you so much that they can't even imagine
Right.
you not being in a particular space with them. So a lot
Yeah.
of times, yeah, that be what you got to battle when it
Mhm.
comes to, death planning. But one of the other things that's the hardest for most people to get through too, outside of communicating for that, the demise, a lot of times it's very hard for people to figure out a way to communicate assets over liabilities too. I
Yeah.
realize that,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know?
Well, this the pride, and it kind of, back to what you're talking about, the man losing the job and, like wanting to make, like a state, I'm doing it. It's all about pride, and it's about ego, and it's about, I don't want people to know, what my situation is, or if like, I don't want people to have a bad perception or a negative perception of me. Like, I want them to think highly of me, or think as highly of me as I think of myself. Right. And
Right.
so I think that does drive that conversation. But to your point, and honestly, I'll be very honest with you, I didn't consider the speaking it into existence argument. That's a great point, because I think that there are a lot of people that don't want to have that conversation because they're fearful of, well, if I start talking about it, then it's going to happen. Well, and so I like to, the human race has a 0% survivability rate. And so it's it's going to happen. And so I mean, talking about it is not necessarily speaking it into existence, because it's going to happen. We just don't know when, we don't know how, we don't know where, right? We don't know any of that stuff. It's just, it's going to happen at some
It's
point.
gonna happen. Yeah. But that's the thing. It's that part of it, because it's so final.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like saying, "All right, I'm gonna go to the military," and then someone says, they go to the military, and then it's no wars happening, so they make it back. They make it to retirement, or they make it to whatever their thing is, and they come home. And then there's those that go to the military, and as soon as they go, they shipped off the war, and then they never make it back home.
That's right.
So it's that thing. People don't want to talk about it because it's that, right? It's you go into a place where, just like if you go into the military, you're training for war,
Right.
right? One of the rules of war is casualties. That's
Yeah.
the rule for war. Win or lose, there's casualties. Whoever the winner is, they still lost
Right.
people.
Right.
Right. So in the event that people don't understand that part, that whenever they go, and then a lot of people, they feel like, oh, we're sending people college. Let's think about college, for example. Their point to sending their children to college, and they feel like they're doing the best thing for them by sending them to college, knowing that they're putting them in immediate debt. Like
Right.
there's no level of education that helps people to really get off their student debt. Like they have to really, they get these high paying jobs, and then most of that money is going to Sally Mae or whoever the
Right.
chick is or whatever,
Yeah.
right? But they come out in debt, but they have so much pride of saying, I have a master's degree, I have this degree, I have all
Right.
this. And yes, you do have all that, but you're also in debt.
Yeah.
Like you're in debt. So as much as you want these accolades of feeling like you're really accomplished, no, you're really in debt. So when you go meeting people and you looking down on people, remember you're looking down at a person that you're in a lower level than them. You just,
Yeah,
you know,
just because your paycheck says that you make, 5 or 6 figures, how much of that are you actually getting? Once you've paid off your student loan payments and your credit card payments and your mortgage bill, and I mean, really, I mean, it's, like, it's how rich are you? Just, you have a title, you have a degree, you have a piece of paper behind you, but what else do you have? To your point, you've got now
exactly.
this mountain of debt that you're trying to dig out of for the next 20 plus years. And, if you try to defer it or whatever, that just adds more interest. So It's definitely a difficult situation.
And that's why I said that's why that conversation of assets over liabilities is one of
Yeah.
the hardest conversations to have between people too, because they don't realize that. Like, listen, we can get there faster if we think more about assets and not just think about what we can buy. Not just always walking around talking about trading time for money because you have a degree that makes you a certain amount of money that allows you to feel comfortable about your life. But no, you're in debt.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
So
and and, go ahead, go ahead.
no. Well, so interestingly, and I'm going to tie what you were talking about at the very beginning to where we are now. So
Mhm.
one of the things that, we talk about assets and liabilities and methods for being able to, make the most for of the situation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there's a way, when and I'm going to keep pulling it back to the death play. You can tell me to stop if it gets annoying. But something that people will do, like they'll do wills and trusts. But for a
Mhm.
trust, you can set it up that your trust owns your home. Like you can do a transfer and like
Mm,
that. I'm not legal, but you can talk to your attorney and you can get it set up where you can build
yes.
it into your trust, and then
Mhm.
you can leave the property to the beneficiaries of the trust. And so
Yeah.
you're creating this wealth generation that I mean, you're building it. So it might not necessarily be something that you benefit from directly, but your
Right.
future generations, your family, your kids, your grandkids, so on and so forth.
They
Like you're
will.
building the
Mhm.
generational wealth. So, to the family, the property, right? You can continue to keep the property in the family, by setting up your stuff ahead of time, like setting up the trust and setting it up so that it goes, once you pass on, it passes to your kids and then they get I can't think of the term, but basically it's leveling up, if you will. It's not That's not the right term, but it levels up, and then they get the benefit of it without having to pay inheritance tax.
Yep, exactly.
So, like there's ways to do it to be able to leverage these leverage your assets so that they can continue. So you're not just willy nilly buying things, right? Like real assets,
Exactly.
like your real estate, not the fanciest car, not the biggest TV, not the, not the cool vacations. While those are all nice, and you want to try to find the balance. If you are making the six figures, right, you want to try to enjoy it, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the longevity is what you're trying to continue, and you're trying to build that.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's something that people can consider. And a lot of times folks think about, like, they get hung up on the price tag. Like, well, it's so
Yes.
expensive. It's expensive to do a trust. Well, a little bit up front, but if you get it set up the right way, it will reap the benefit later on. You can have
Exactly.
you can set up your beneficiaries, you can have the money going into this account, and it will create the generational wealth. It will keep the properties in the family, and it will help, everyone going forward, if that's your goal. So, I mean, there's certainly ways to do it, and I think that's something that people should think about if that's something that's important to them, is keeping that
Yeah.
going.
And that's why I say a lot of times that's the hardest thing to conversation to have, because when people they come together, they don't think in that term. Like they don't think in that perspective, right? They don't think about like, yo, let's create assets to
Mhm.
really build this life. Because, I said this on the show before and I got a little backlash for it, but it's the truth. I said that the parents in our generation, they wasn't considering us,
Uh-uh.
right? All they did was had us, right? Had sex, had us, and they reaped whatever government benefits that they were given at that time.
Right.
And that was it. They didn't think about the future. They didn't plan for us to have things like they wanted to set it up so that we will be able to be good and our kids will be good and all that. So then like you said, you have those of us that are in this space, we're doing it now, and we won't necessarily get a chance to benefit from what we're building. But everybody after us will. And it's the thing of having that conversation is because very seldom do you have people who are willing to put in the work now
Right.
to have that later. People
Absolutely.
want the later now. They want the vacation now. They want
Yeah.
birthday trip now. They want the thing now. They don't want to put in the work to get the asset so the asset can pay for everything going forward. They
Right.
don't think that. And then in terms of relationships between men and women, or personal relationships between people, people go into relationships already expecting it to fail. So they don't want to put things together because then they feel like, what if we have to be apart and we separated?
Right.
Business is not the same. Like whenever I look at things and I feel like, people are around each other and they can't really understand what business is, how can you understand what a relationship is?
Right.
Because it's a business. And then if you don't understand business, then why do you want to be married?
Right. For sure.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
like if you don't really want to understand these things, then why do you want these things? Because you're not going to be successful at it. Just like anybody else. Like, when people go to school and get continuing education is for stuff, it's so they could be better at it. There are people, most of the people that I know that are barbers, they didn't learn how to cut hair in barber school. They just went to barber school so they could cut hair legally.
Right.
They already knew how to cut hair. They was gifted in cutting hair, and they were cutting hair before they ever went to school. They just
Yep.
did it so they could do it legally,
Yep. The
not so
formality.
they. You know what I'm saying? Not
Yep.
so they could learn how to cut hair. But for some people, they had to learn other parts of it that they didn't know, like how to do women's hair whenever they would just want to go be a barber, right? They might have
Right.
to learn more, which is cool. But initially, there are people who, they get continuing education on things so they could be better. But then you got people on this level who don't want to be, they don't want to get the extra education to be better. And that's what I'm saying when it comes down to assets over liability, because, most of us will understand that relationships don't last. Just like what you say, people don't want to talk about death. They don't want to talk about assets and liabilities, and they don't want to talk about the fact that things don't always last. You may have children with people that you and the parent that had the children may never be together again, but it does not have nothing to do with business.
Right.
You still should be able to, whatever relationship that y'all had to come together to make that kid should be enough for y'all to understand that this still has to be taken care of.
That's right.
You don't be in a position with a person who don't want to build an asset with you in order for you, because then here's another thing, like you were saying about death. Some people don't get a chance to plan nothing. But if you had an asset,
Oh yeah.
now
Well,
the kid and whoever's left behind, they have something to help
yeah.
because you thought before, like you thought about that, not in the sense of you maybe not being here no more, but it could go for whether you pass on or whether y'all just pass each other.
Right.
The
Well,
responsibility is still taken care of. Go ahead, my bad.
no, you're good. I was going to say and that's exactly how I kind of got into this space to begin with. My husband had passed away 10 years ago,
Oh wow, sorry to
and
hear
so,
that.
well, thank you. But I mean, it happens. We all will experience it in some capacity, right? It'll be a parent, it'll be a sibling, it'll be a friend, it'll be a loved one,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
so, we had a small family, and, the plan, was that our employer had life insurance. That was the plan. Like we had talked, like we knew that there should probably be a little bit more, but we never had those conversations because we just always felt like there was more time. Oh, well, we're too young to have that conversation. We've got a long time to go. We don't have to worry about that. And then, my husband died very unexpectedly. He went to bed and didn't wake up. And so, I mean, that happens. And so what happens from that point then is you have to be I had to be resilient. I mean, I had a choice. I had a choice to either succumb to what was going on and, stay down and stay depressed and whatever. But, we had a child together. He had children to his previous relationships. And I chose to keep going. I chose to rise up. I
Mm,
chose to make it better. I chose to keep going and make it better for all of us because there was no plan to fail. I couldn't fail. And
right.
so I had to do something. And ultimately, that's why I wrote this book, is because I wanted people to be able to have the conversation. I didn't want them to have to go through what I went through because we didn't have plans. And so
Right.
I had to do all the things that come along with death that people don't want to talk about, right? They're too afraid to have the conversation, but ultimately someone has to do it. So
Yeah.
our days are numbered. We just don't know when that is in most cases. Now, some people do know and they will make their, plans accordingly. But,
Hmm.
to have that kind of conversation, that's why I'm so emphatic about do it. Have the conversation, even if it's hard, even if it's, even if it hurts, even, you know what I mean? Like just push through
Have
so
the
that you can,
conversation.
yeah, have the difficult
Hmm.
conversation because you need to do that. For your own sanity, for your family, like, and I kind of look at it as an act of love to be able
Right.
to put all your wishes down to say this is what I want definitively, so that whoever comes after me, like whenever it's my time, they don't have to guess. They don't have to try to figure it out. All they have to do is
Yeah.
execute.
That's true. And that's a good way to look at it. But like you said, that form of communication. So having the tough talks, like being able to be okay with having those tough conversations and, having a mindset of wanting to come out of it with some type of understanding. I think going into these conversations is a good way to train yourself is to say, yo, I want to really understand what's going on. I don't think a lot of people go into these conversations with that mindset. I think they go in it with already in their mind of their talking points that they want to prove that they're right or not, versus saying, okay, I really want to understand you. Let me listen to what you're saying. And if I don't agree, I'm gonna let you know, but I want to understand you, right? Because my intentions may not be the way you took something. So I can apologize for how you feel, but I can't apologize for how I am because that's not my intentions, So having those type of conversations with people are really tough. But I think that with you writing a book on those things and you being the person that you're saying, like, I think a lot of people will get a lot from you by reaching out to you or checking out your books and stuff like that, for them to understand that it's okay to have these conversations because of your own personal situation you went through. I mean, hey, losing your husband 10 years ago, that's one thing. But the way it happened, based on why you're doing what you're doing now, it's almost like an act of how you were pushed in your purpose. And I don't, I know tragedy sometimes leads to purpose, but a lot of people don't like to talk about that either. But in
Right.
the sense of what you're talking about now, being able to have that, who knows if that didn't happen to you, whether you would be in this space right now,
That's right.
right? So your purpose, everyone that is born has a purpose.
Yeah.
It's just that how they find it,
Right.
or if
When
they
they
do.
find it, I mean, and that's the other part. Like when they're willing to accept what it is. And so for me, again, he passed away 10, almost 11 years ago now. And so like this whole time, this whole
A lot of
time of
work.
this span, raising our daughter and, figuring out who I was, creating this thing that I wanted to give people to help them so that they didn't have to necessarily go through this process blind, right? Like I
Mm,
spell it all out. All you have to do is just kind of look at it. And I think for some people, like this is just the opportunity to even consider the thought, right? To think that
yeah.
maybe I should do this, or validate a thought that they might have been having, of maybe I need to have this kind of a conversation, even though I don't want to, or even though they don't want to, or hey, my mom's getting older. We need to have this conversation so that I know what she wants, because she might not be able to tell me, when it's time.
Whenever that time come, right? That's a
Yeah.
fact. So listen, this is what I want to do because I want to make sure that people, they could find you, they could reach out to you, and they could definitely get more information on how they can better communicate and as well as be able to have those tough conversations. So how would you direct people into finding you?
Well, I am on most of the major socials, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or yeah, Instagram. You can find me at author Lynn B. Stone. It's all together. You can find me there. I have a website, authorlynnbstone.com. If you're interested in the book, you can find it on Amazon, and it's called Till Death Do Us Part. And I had a copy somewhere. I don't even know where. Oh, there it is. I like to have it here because it's a visual, right? So people can see it. So you can see that
Yeah.
it's very literal, right? It's a casket
Yes,
with
it
flowers.
is.
but it's a
Wow.
practical guide, and I mean, I didn't really know how else to say it other than what it is, but it's just to help
Mm,
people. But on my socials, I've been sharing. I also created a resistant conversation toolkit. So for
okay.
those scenarios where you have difficult, like where one party wants to talk and the other one doesn't, I give them a guide on how to get through those conversations and a couple different methods that you can try to get there. In the future, I'm going to be putting together some workshops online so you
Yeah.
can work through those. I'll do some live offerings as well. So I've got a bunch of things going. So follow me on social. That's the best way to see what I'm up to. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's so important. There's just so much. There's such a need
Yeah.
for it. We're all going to go at some point, and I mean, I hate to be the ray of sunshine that's like, yeah, we're all going to die, yeah. But it's true, and we just need to try to embrace the truth, be prepared for the truth, and then once you have it figured out, then it's done. You don't have to. I
It's
mean, you can
done.
go back and visit it, just make sure it's still accurate. But
Yeah.
you know, it
But
doesn't.
just try. So yeah, it needs to be a community of people who are okay with just being able to have tough conversations because I just think that it just needs more of that, right? I mean, people can go seek counseling if that's what they need, but sometimes knowing that there are other people that can relate to you is kind of an extra help too, as well. Not necessarily going to somebody who is not going through what you're going through, but just there to kind of try to help you navigate something that they haven't gone through themselves because they were technically taught how to help you navigate through thoughts, but not really have a discernment because they don't have like the experience. But I think that all of y'all that's watching tonight, all of y'all that will watch the playback, I think y'all should really reach out to Lynn and just if you need some guidance or some pointers on or even maybe some motivation on how to have those tough conversations. And when it comes down to death planning and stuff like that, that is a very tough conversation to have with your loved ones. A lot of you people love your people through everything, right? You love them through their unhealthy or their not so good ways as well too. And so if you know that about them, and you still should be having trying to have these type of conversations with them. So please reach out to her, y'all, please. And don't hesitate to let her know that you heard her on here, so that way you guys can understand that these conversations that we have, as well as what you may have personally, are not in vain. So
That's
I
right.
thank you so much, Lynn, for being on the platform. We got a couple of more comments we're going to get into before we get out of here. So Gun One, he was saying, I wasn't mad with them until the Super Bowl. Okay. And then he said something, I need Chris Brown next year for real, for real. I mean, that'll be good. I think Chris Brown will kill whatever performance he's given. I just don't think they probably would give it to him based on whatever happened with him and Rihanna, right? And even though, his cause for what he didn't justify Rihanna for why, it didn't justify what he did as well either. So that probably won't happen for him. And I saw that. But I didn't think that they were doing that based on saying that Bad Bunny did a bad performance, because he didn't. So I hope that's not why people are saying. I think it just Chris Brown just need an opportunity. You know what I mean? Not need it, but he should be able to get that opportunity. I wasn't mad. So you talking about the Migos? I'm not understanding what the Migos had to do with the Super Bowl, but all right. He said it's not hate, just more of a distaste. Okay, well, I understand that too, right? You know what I mean? Like, people don't have to like something. My thing is that when people get out here and they expressing it on social media and they going to rallies and they gathering and they just keep producing more hate for something that they could have just literally just turned the channel
Yeah,
or just
just
went and got up and got them some food or
just mute it
got
or
on
turn
the
it to a different
phone
channel.
or went to something else. Like, you really have to be in your feelings about that? That's crazy. And King Suave, I guess you're responding to Gun One, but I'm not gonna put your comment up there because that's pretty rude. But listen, everybody has a right to their comment or their opinion on the show. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, we're not gonna get into that. But either way it go, thank y'all all for watching tonight. Y'all know the vibes each and every week, man. Every Tuesday night, I get up here and I talk to some of the world's most interesting people. And we're going to do the same thing next week. So y'all make sure y'all keep it locked and don't go nowhere. But remember, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. So until next week, y'all, peace.